morning. Good morning, good morning. So, welcome to our daily reading and welcome to my friends all over and on YouTube. And yes, hi JR. Hi. So I wanted to talk about, I'm going to talk about about surrender. About surrender. And as many of you know, I'm in the 12-step recovery program. I've been wrestling with that for many years. And I say wrestling with it because I see that it's an interesting process. I kind of just took enough that I just took enough that I didn't have to use or drink anymore. I just did enough for many years so that I could have some kind of a life. And it's beautiful that that's possible for many of us, that is possible, that we can just, in the beginning, I admitted and accepted that I was an addict or an alcoholic, and I got that, and I realized that the number one thing was I couldn't drink or use. If I drank or used, I was screwed, and I knew that, and I kind of incorporated enough spirituality in my life, if you will, to so that didn't happen. And yet I struggled, and I didn't realize I was struggling with the second half of step one. Step one in any awakening process is surrender. What are we surrendering? Well, we're surrendering the I, the ego, the I that says I can run the show, the I that says I got this. The I that says, well, I just want to go back to my old life, right? And the I that says I should be wealthy. The I that says I should have a girlfriend or a wife who supports me. The I that says, life should be different. And I didn't surrender that. So I recognized that I was addicted to that, to the I. I was addicted to my persona. I was addicted to wanting, I was addicted to complaining. I was addicted to thinking I knew better. And that ultimately, surrender of that makes awakening possible. But I looked at that a lot, and ego said, yes, but if you surrender there, what happens? Who's going to run the show? Who's going to look after you? Ego, came in the form often of, a comforting mom. How many of us have, as we worked with alkies, I've seen, these grown men who are still, calling mom and saying, Mom, what should I do? They're 35. So, mom has become the persona or thrown themselves to a husband or a wife and said, look after me. Rather than surrender. So that's really all that look at this in the text of Alcoholics Anonymous. In the text of Alcoholics Anonymous, it says that that the first step is amazing. The first step is, and how many times have we read it and not got it? How many times have we read it and not got it? It's amazing. We admitted that we were powerless over whatever our addiction was: food, sex, gambling, work, drugs, alcohol. It just, whatever that was, and that was easy for many of us. And we came with an idea that if I got past that, I'd be okay. I'd be able to look after myself. I'd be able to manage my own life. And then we came, and it said, we admitted we were powerless over whatever our addiction was, that our lives had become unmanageable. And in the beginning, many people, think, well, my life was unmanageable when I was using or drinking, and what is manageable? What I got from later writing in this book is that I had to surrender running the show. I had to surrender running the show. Literally on the very next page it says being convinced. We're on step 3, which is we had to surrender, and it talks about us, how we were running the show, we were directing. It says each person's like the actor who wants to run the whole show. That's what I have to give up, is wanting to run the show. And very clearly it says that. So if I'm going to give up running the show, I have to give up my persona, my idea of me. I have to let go of that. And no way. We're so addicted to that. That's the addiction. That's the addiction. I sat with a man last night, and it comes, that peace sometimes doesn't come really early in the awakening process. It takes a while sometimes in the search. And we've stopped drinking or using or whatever our blatant addiction was, and we're still in a lot of pain, and a lot of fear, and a lot of anger. And I remember I was punching walls at 4 and 5 years sober, because I still wanted my own way. I was still like a child banging around, and when I'm running the show, it says what usually happens, the show doesn't come off very well. I begin to think that life doesn't treat me right, so self-pity comes up. It's amazing. I decide to exert myself more. I become on the next occasion still more demanding or gracious, as the case may be. So I have these tools that I use to run the show, but it doesn't work. Eventually, it's like we run out of people. It doesn't work. So we can't run the show. We have to surrender. Still, the play does not suit me. Admitting I may be somewhat at fault, I'm sure that other people are more to blame. I become angry. These are my tools. Indignant. Self-pitying. What is my basic trouble? Am I not really a self-seeker when trying to be kind? Am I not the victim of the delusion? I'm deluded. And this is the whole thing. We're living in a delusion. Yes. The victim of the delusion that I can wrest satisfaction and happiness of this world if I only manage well. It's not evident to all the rest of the players, everybody that's in the game, that these are the things I want. Do not my actions make each of them wish to retaliate, snatching all they can get out of the show? Am I not, in my best moments, a producer of confusion rather than harmony? So when I'm running the show from ego, I'm screwed. I'm just... This is in this book called Alcoholics Anonymous. It's amazing. It points me out. It points me out amazingly. Hi, Joseph. And on the very next page, it says, the very next page it says, the root of my problem. And this is what holds me in the eye, wanting to run the show. Selfishness and self-centeredness, it says. And it's talking about the addict, but we're all addicted to our persona. We're all addicted to wanting to run the show, right? Selfishness and self-centeredness, that we think is the root of our troubles. Driven by 100 forms, listen to this, that selfishness and self-centeredness, that's the root of our troubles. Imagine that. Driven by 100 forms of fear, self-delusion, self-seeking, and self-pity, we step on the toes of our fellows and they retaliate. Sometimes they hurt me, seemingly without provocation, but I invariably find that sometime in the past, I made decisions based on self, which later placed me in a position to be hurt. So that's the deal. That's the deal. I've written my own script. And so for those of us that are tired of that, we're like, my gosh, why is life always seem to be such a struggle? Why am I always living in fear? You know, why is there always this doubt? This is the root of it, is our addiction to the I. The I. So it says, the next paragraph is the answer, and it's beautifully done. The next paragraph, it says, so our troubles, we think, are basically of our own making. The I. They arise out of ourselves. And the alcoholic or the addict, or most of us that are trying, you know, that are living in that way, and it's an extreme example of self-will run riot, though I usually don't think so. Above everything, I must be rid of this selfishness. I must, or it kills me. I must, or it kills me. I must be rid of this selfishness. How can I? Affirmations? Chants? You know, how can I? So there's a lot of ways to move towards the light, towards a higher vibration. But the first thing is we must be convinced that the way we're living doesn't work. Right? So that if we're not convinced of that, then we're going to continue to try to run the show. And this is basically step one in every spiritual practice. In every spiritual practice, not just in it, but it's so clearly done in this practice in the 12 steps. It's so clearly stated that it's beautiful. You know, he doesn't mess around. He really doesn't. And then, okay, we must, or it kills us. And God makes that possible. So God is it. Remember, a lot of people get hooked here and they say, oh, well, I don't really believe in God. You know, so let's look at infinite intelligence. Let's look at life. Let's look at love. Whatever it is that we move into that we recognize is a power greater than us. And if you don't believe, search until you can get that. And if you don't believe, talk to me, and we'll talk about it. You know, because it isn't actually a belief that we're trying to build here. We're building an experience, a moment-to-moment experience. It isn't based on belief. It's based on reality, on knowing, and because we need to not run the show. We can't kind of surrender to something we believe in. We surrender to something we actually experience in each moment. So, and it's a beauty, and we must, or it kills us. God makes it possible. And there often seems no way of entirely getting rid of self without his aid. Many of us had moral and philosophical convictions galore. So many of us did. Like, I read all the books. I studied, you know, went to India. You know, I had moral and philosophical convictions galore, but I couldn't live up to them. I couldn't. My old ways kept coming back. And because I was still living in the I, in the selfishness. So it's, you know, I'm a perfect example of how it doesn't work if we don't do it. Many of us have moral and philosophical convictions galore, but we could not live up to them even though we would have liked to. Neither could we reduce our self-centeredness. Neither could I reduce my self-centeredness much by wishing or trying on my own power. I had to have God's help. It's the how and the why of it. And then in the book, he gives some concepts, because we need concepts in the beginning to kind of have a relationship with something, you know, because the I needs to feel something, you know, and it's the how and the why of it. First, we had to quit playing God. It didn't work. So there's not mixing words. You know, there is no other way to have contented, happy, joyous, and free, you know, living by our intuition, knowing peace. Understanding, comprehending the word serenity. We can't have these gifts without this relationship, period. So it didn't work. Next, we decided that hereafter the drama of life, God was going to be our director. That's a concept. He is the principal. That's another concept. And we are his agents. He is the father, and we are his children. Those are concepts. Most good ideas are simple, and this concept was the keystone to the new and triumphant arch through which we pass to freedom. That's it. So we have to surrender. End of story, full stop. And that's the deal, you know. We have to recognize that we are living addicted to the I want, mine, and recognize that living in that way doesn't work. It doesn't work, you know. We feel empty, you know. We feel sad, right? We feel fearful, right? We feel self-pity. You know, we feel guilt. We feel shame. And it's all comes from trying to run the show and knowing, innately knowing, because we came from this, that there is something greater, something more here. And, you know, I mean, it's not a big deal if we die and don't find it and don't realize it. But the possibility is to realize who we are in this lifetime. So, in the next paragraph in this book, this is an amazing book. If you haven't got one or ever read one, I recommend it. Even if you have one and you haven't done this, you know, this next paragraph is awesome, it says, because it has promises in here. This is right in the beginning. We're still, you know, pre-step 3, you know, it says, when I sincerely took such a position, all sorts of remarkable things followed. I had a new employer. I love that concept. It's a good concept for me because I'm undisciplined. My eye is very undisciplined, that I need a new employer. I need a boss. Being all-powerful, he provided what I needed. If I kept close to him, performed his work well. So me keeping close to him is prayer and meditation, you know, consciously asking, you know, thy will be done, staying in this moment, you know, as much as possible, being aware when I'm not in the moment, when I'm in my fear, and asking, you know, thy will be done, show me what you'd have me to be, guide me and strengthen me. All of these things bring me into this moment. You know, prayer is a really powerful tool to be present. In the breath, also sharing. This, you know, what I'm doing brings me into the moment. It's a beautiful way for me to be here now. And so that's performing his work well. Established on such a footing, I became, it says, he provided what we needed. He provided what we needed. So we don't have to worry. If this is true, we don't have to worry anymore. I mean, life will look after us. Life always has looked after us. He provided what we needed. It's a very big statement. Wow. You know, it's like, are you kidding? And he provided what we needed if I kept close to him, performed his work well. So that's the deal. And his work, of course, is carrying this message, you know. In the story of Jesus, the idea that, you know, with his disciples, he said to go out and become fishers of men, because only drowning men can see us. And so people who's, you know, imagine that their life is okay aren't looking, but only drowning men can see us. So his work, in my mind, is to carry this message, you know, of awakening, and that's what's working for me, because then I'm present and I'm here and I'm not thinking about me. I'm you know, reaching out. So that's my life these days, and nothing seems to work but that. I mean, for years I just wanted to be close enough to God so that I didn't, you know, so most of what was happening was selfishly based. It was all me trying to get, and this is different. This is really living a life of giving and performing his work well. Established in such a footing, became less and less interested in ourselves. That's the promise, right, in the third step. Our little plans and designs. More and more we became interested in seeing what we can contribute to life. So this is the promise as well. We began to see what we can contribute to life. Imagine, you know, as I felt new power flow in, as I enjoyed peace of mind, as I discovered I could face life successfully, as I became conscious of his presence. So that's the deal, conscious of his presence. I began to lose my fear of today, tomorrow, the hereafter. I was reborn. So that's the promise in the third step in A. It's beautiful, you know, and we have to be ready to surrender running the show on a daily basis. It's beautiful. And then the third step prayer, I still do every single day. God, I offer myself to thee, to build with me and do with me as thou wilt. Relieve me the bondage of self, that I may better do thy will. Take away my difficulties, that victory over them may bear witness to those I would help with thy power, thy love, and thy way of life. May I do thy will always. I didn't know I was going to do that this morning. All right. Hey, you guys. So, are we ready to let go of running the show? I mean, that's the deal. You know. I'm going to read some of the daily reading that I do every day. September the 16th, I think it is. Is it? Yeah. Thanks, you guys. Thanks for letting me do that. I know, I wish, in a way, I don't want to dance around this. It's just, we either get it or we don't. That somehow we need to surrender. And the somehow is just doing it, recognizing that, oh my gosh, you know, I'm trying to control everything. I have to let it go. So that's the deal. Okay, I'll stop. September 16th, thought for the day. This is from this little book that I like to read called 24 Hours a Day. Today, it says, let us begin a short study of the 12 suggested steps of AA. These 12 suggested steps seem to embody 5 principles. The first step is a membership requirement step. The second, third, and 11th steps are the spiritual steps of the program. The 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, and 10th steps are the personal inventory steps. The 8th and 9th steps are the restitution steps. The 12th step is the passing on of the program or helping others step. So the 5 principles are membership requirement, spiritual basis, personal inventory, restitution, and helping others. That's a nice shortened version of the 12 steps. Thank you. Meditation for the day. We seem to live not only in time, but in eternity. If we abide with God and He abides with us, we may bring forth spiritual fruit which will last for eternity. If we live with God, our lives can flow as some calm river through the dry land of earth. It can cause the trees and the flowers of the spiritual life. It can cause the trees and flowers of the spiritual life, which are love and service, to spring forth and yield abundantly. Spiritual work may be done for eternity. Spiritual work may be done for eternity, not just for now. Even here on earth, we can live as though our real lives were eternity. Beautiful. There is no time. There's no time. I think, again, in the stories of Jesus, he said, no time. Everything that is, was, or ever will be is now. No time. Time. Heck with time. There's no time. Prayer for the day. I pray that I may try to make my life like a there it is. The print's very small. I pray that I may try to make my life like a cool river in a thirsty land. I pray that I may give freely to all that ask my help. Beautiful prayer. Okay, you guys, kind of chilly down here. It's fall's coming in Alberta. Okay, guys, I've moved my space. I don't know if you noticed, but I've you know, last few days outside hasn't been working. Okay, love you lots. Thanks. Check us out on YouTube. Monday nights we're doing the meditation at 7:30, and I'm planning now. I've decided, enough people said yes, they wanted this, that in October we're going to start to read this book. This is the Bhagavad Gita, and it's a beautiful book. It's a translation by Stephen Mitchell. So the Bhagavad Gita we'll start in October, early October, and so get a copy, Stephen Mitchell, Bhagavad Gita, and we'll read it together. You know, it might take a few weeks because we'll read a few pages at a time and kind of digest it and discuss it a little bit if it can really be discussed. And it's a beautiful text. Okay, love you guys. Thanks, you know, for just being here. Okay, love you. Bye.